Welcome to the Abyssinian Syllabary, where we spell out Ethiopia in 33 characters. I'm Yves-Marie Stranger, your host and the compiler of these Abyssinian lives. Nota bene, while any resemblance to actual countries, past or present, and to historical figures is not purely coincidental, this is a work of fiction. For a primer on these Ethiopian characters, newcomers may start with the prologue by Manuel de Guèz. To order the book or a poster of the Abyssinian Syllabary, visit Ethiopia.com. That's UTHIOPIA.com.
The library of Mount Tabora? No, I have not yet visited, commented Sir Jacob. And yet, he continued, there is nothing I place above books. I prefer them to freshly baked injera, spread with butter and spice. I value them more than a hot areca, sprinkled in garlic, consumed in the midst of the rainy season. But one should preserve a few improbable locations that one can then eagerly look forward to for all eternity. The Apocrypha of Sir Jacob. Tzaafi Qalem Werk. The child had cut his mother's breath with his first vigorous wail. Unnaturally strong, thought his father, who despised the child henceforth for the manner in which he had howled, as if in triumph. The father was pious, so he did not abandon the infant to the hyena, but he did indefatigably attempt to get rid of this unwanted son. A slaving wet nurse, the infant came to call Anat, suckled him. She sang him cradle songs from a land she said to be a paradise that bore the name Mui, a wooded valley in the south, a land of honey and colourful songbirds that was surmounted by a rocky peak. She called him Ngada, as no one seemed to wish to christen the child. Ngada grew strong, suckling on Anat's stories and on her milk. His brooding father granted him no affections. At 6 years of age, this father finally broke his silence, declaring, "Tomorrow we travel for the monastery of Debridamo. I see you have nabbed an agname. You will learn your letters and your psalms, and you shall say prayers for my wife, whose life you blew out so that you could snatch all the light." And hence it was. Ngada embraced Anat the whole night long, and left at dawn. He would never see this bitter father, nor his adored wet nurse, again. Ngada recited his syllabary with the other children, of all ages, sitting under an acacia that grew out of the cliff face. Ha, hu, he, ha, he, hu, ho, they chanted under the watchful stick of a blind monk. The mountain Debridamo was shaped in the form of a hammered-out cross and offered open vistas to the eye. To the north, the mountains of Tigray and the provinces of the Bahar Nagash, while to the south, the horizons were arrested by the mountains of Semien. Le, lu, li, la, le, le, lo, repeated Ngada, who was poring over his Dawit prayer book. 2 years later, he was dispatched as a fodder boy with a caravan travelling from Aksum to request a new abun from the Pasha of Cairo. In Egypt, Ngada promptly ran away to a Coptic monastery in the Wadi Natrun. Here he found that they had many holy men, anchorites, and scholars, and many a bedlamite. Ngada took on the role of each in turn. Firstly, he mortified himself. He held up an arm above his head in his cell 3 days long, only to have sleep sneak up on him on the night of the 4th. Secondly, Ngada banished himself to a crevice in a cliff full of carmine snakes. He had not grasped that many signs were needed, such as chanting at the top of your lungs, so that the salt miners would pay you attention. So that they did not, and as nobody brought Ngada even a crust of rye, he returned to the monastery crawling on his belly. His bloodied members were nursed by Brother Kiddus, the custodian of the monastery's library. Engueda felt at home in the silence in which one scrapes into being, letter by letter, versions of the Bible and of the Apocrypha. It is here that Engueda learnt to care for the exquisite parchments with their red, black and golden words, and to hone his reed calamus. When Kiddus grew tired, saying, "The time has come to lay my book to rest," Engueda persevered with the librarian's labours, and he, too, in turn, took pupils. He instructed others on how to draw the arabesques and how best to translate them into the Alexandrian Coptic acrolect, from the Aramaic and from the Greek. Engueda transcribed Enoch, and he rendered the Septuagint into Fidels. That is to say, that he used the syllabary of his country to lay down in Guèz the tale of Sheba and of Solomon. It was this same book, passed from hand to hand along the Nile like a spiritual baton, that earned Engueda his return to Ethiopia. This glory of kings, as Engueda had deemed fit to call it, the like of which had never been seen before in the country, was much lauded. Engueda undertook the same journey as his book, for it had paved the way for him. Arriving in the capital of the new monarchs, not much more than a hill fort, in the land they call Amara, the king told him, "Hear us out, you who can write things into being. We are equitable kings, and we are in need of a towering rostrum of ink and skin to establish our bloodline." And as this king, who called himself Amdatzion, or Pillar of Zion, was good-hearted and God-fearing, and as he had wed himself to men from the cloth, Engueda assented. "I only ask for one kindness, O king," Engueda said, "that you grant me to be henceforward be called by the name Qalem Werk, golden pen." This request was immediately granted the scribe on a foal-skin parchment and with a seal in this new name. Qalem Werk holed himself up in a spacious chamber with an army of copyists assembled from all over the northern borders. He unpacked his flamingo feathers and his Libyan inks, his fish glue pots and his Palestine varnishes, together with some scrolls he had spirited out of Egypt. In a matter of very few months, the cursives of the Arabic characters, which seemed to dance off the volumes propped up against the candle-lit rock faces, had been retranscribed onto parchment. The sharp Guèz fidèles that blew from the cave's mouth breathed a new life into an old epic. In this story, a beautiful Ethiopian queen visits with a Semitic king in Jerusalem and returns to her country with child. Thus is a new Solomonic line born in the Holy City, an event which announces a new covenant between Yahweh and the Abyssinians. Qalem Werk lays his calamus to rest. He smiles. If he has killed a mother, it is to all Ethiopia he has now given birth.